Well, hello and welcome again to our reading of the Acts of the Apostles, and we're in chapter 17, and we're up to Paul going up to Athens at verse 16. So, recall thus far Paul and Timothy and Silas have been up in northern Greece, up in Thessaloniki. Things didn't go too well there, so he went to Berea, where he found a more receptive audience. But the Jewish leaders from Thessaloniki turned up and they smuggled Paul out, whereas Timothy and Silas had stayed put. And Paul has been assisted to go down into Athens, and that's where we finished last time, that these people who helped him, they took a letter to Silas and Timothy so that as quickly as possible they might come to him, that is to Paul, and when they had done all that, ex aesan, they went back. That is the people who were helping Paul to escape. And in Athens, now Athens, Atheni is a plural form, even though Athens is one place. And so when you see Athens, it's always going to be in the plural. So in Athens, now we get a genitive absolute. Paul was ek dekomenu, he was awaiting autus them, and that's referring to Silas and Timothy. So it's something like, while he was waiting for them in Athens, paroxuneto. Now this is from paroxuno, which is to irritate or provoke. Athens, of course, was full of pagan temples, statues and shrines, which Paul, of course, as a Jew, would have found very irritating. One might imagine a Protestant fundamentalist being similarly irritated during a walk around the Vatican. So this word here, to be annoyed, to be provoked, to be angered. So he became, so to puma autu is the subject, so his spirit, this is passive, was provoked, was irritated, en auto, in him. The spirit of him, this is genitive with autu here, of him seeing, the city being, participle from the verb to be, kat eidolon. This is a word that's only here in the New Testament and elsewhere only used in Christian writers later on. It's very rare. It simply means full of idols. An eidolon, well, originally an eidolon could be used for a ghost, all sorts of different meanings, but here it becomes in the sense of idol, which were believed to be inhabited by evil spirits and so on by some Christians. So he was annoyed as he wandered around Athens and seeing the whole city full of idols. Dialegeto men un, and we get a det down here. He was, so this is from dialegamai, he was debating or discussing. We get our word dialogue is cognate with this. So he was having a dialogue, a discussion, then in the synagogue with the Jews and with the Sebomenos. These are the God-fearers, the reverencing ones, the ones who showed reverence towards God, so often translated the God-fearers. And in the marketplace, the agora. Now this, of course, is a place in Athens. If you've been to Athens, you will have visited the agora. This was a major, very bustling area of Athens where all the politicians were. People went there to discuss matters. People went there to buy and sell. And even at this stage of Athens, it would have been a bustling place. So, and in the marketplace, kata pason hemeron, each day. So he was debating, therefore, in the synagogue with the Jews, and with the God-fearers, and in the marketplace daily with those, the paratunkanontas. Paratunkano, it's those whoever he met, whoever chanced to be there. Tines de ton epikureon. Now these are the Epicureans. So certain ones also of the Epicureans and of the Stoic philosophers sun ebelon auto, so met with him. Sumbello has a range of meanings, but here I think it's just it's not quite cast their lot in with him, but they met with him. Now the Epicureans, of course, these were founded by Epicurus in about 342. These are materialists who believed in disinterested deities. The Stoics, on the other hand, Stoicism was founded by Zeno between about 350 and 250 BC. It has the emphasis on performing acts of virtue. They were materialists, fatalists, pantheists, and they placed a premium on the rational faculty in human thought. So he meets up with these people, and certain of them were saying, Tian theloi ho spermalogos hutos legain. Now this is a very odd word here. It is used earlier by Demosthenes in classical Greek in his speech on the crown. He uses it contemptuously of his enemy Aeschines. It's a slang term. It doesn't appear anywhere else in the New Testament or in the Septuagint. It literally refers to birds who pick up scraps of grain, and hence it comes to be used figuratively of people in the marketplace who hang around the marketplace picking up, well, scraps of information or perhaps even food. It becomes a word for loafers or worthless person, a bit like our modern chancers. So they say, what does this spermalogos, what does this chancer, if I can translate it that way, or this worthless person, this one, what would he wish? This is optative from Othello. So what would he wish to say? Others said, Doce, he seems to be a catangelius. This is an announcer or a preacher or herald. This again also is a very rare noun, but the verb is quite common, catangelo. So he seems to be an announcer or a preacher of strange xenon, daimonion, of strange divinities, strange gods. Because he speaks good news of Jesus and the resurrection. Now, what exactly is happening here? In many of the Hellenistic religions, there was a male and a female deity, and it's been suggested that we should put a capital A on this, and we hear about then Jesus and Anastasis, as though this were a female deity. Of course, the word means resurrection, but the name Anastasis, it could also be a female name. And so they may have misinterpreted him when he starts talking about Jesus and Anastasis, and not understanding he's talking about the resurrection. Anyway, that's just an interesting suggestion by a number of scholars. It also makes sense because they say up here of strange divinities, plural, and so they may have thought he was referring to two different people here. Epi labominoi de autu epi ton areon pagon agagon legontes. So taking charge of him, or taking him by the hand, not violently, because the marketplace itself, the agora, would have been very noisy, very busy place, and not far from there is the Areopagus, or the Hill of Ares, which is only a very short walk from the agora, and it would have been a much more comfortable place to sit and chat, and it overlooks the agora. So taking him by the hand, they led, understand, him to the Areopagon. This is the Areopagus, the Hill of Ares, Legontes saying. It's a question: are we able to know what is this new teaching, the one being spoken by you? Because many, again, of these Hellenistic religions were mystery religions. A lot of the detail was not allowed to be spoken except to initiates, and so they ask, are we allowed to know what this new teaching of yours is? For the Xenizonta here is it's connected with xenos, a stranger. So these are certain strange things. This is a neuter plural here. The original meaning of the verb xenizdo was to entertain somebody, but then it came to mean to be surprised at strange things, and then in the middle to think anything strange. And so here it's the neuter plural with tina. So it's for you introduce into our ears certain strange things. Therefore we wish to know what, now the subject here is tauta, neuter plural singular verb, what these things wish to be. So in other words, what is the meaning of these, what these new things mean, what these things mean. Athenaioi depantes, but all the Athenians and the epidaemuntes. Epidamio is to go abroad, to go on to visit another country. So these are the xenoi, these are the strangers who are, well, they're probably resident aliens. They're people who've come to Athens. They're not Athenian citizens, they're xenoi, but they're living in Athens. So all the Athenians and perhaps you could say resident aliens, eukaireo is, with this verb here, this is from eukaireo, originally to have opportunity, here probably to have an easy time of it, so perhaps leisure time. So it says for all the Athenians and the resident aliens, for nothing else, with regard to for no other reason, they have leisure time. So sorry, they have leisure time for nothing else, and then we get a than to speak something or to hear something which is kainoteron, which is newer. So let me do that bit again then. So for all the Athenians and the resident aliens, they have leisure time with regard to nothing else, to no other thing, no different thing than to have something to talk about or to hear something which is newer, so which is more recent. In other words, they're all interested in hearing the most recent things. And Stathes, Paul, having stood in the middle of the Areopagus, he said, and by the way, the Areopagus had been a sort of law court at earlier times, but by this, even by late 5th century times, it was a law court only for, I think, charges of murder. So it had become a sort of fossilized institution by this stage. So Paul, having stood in the middle of the Areopagus, he said, Andres Athenoi, men of Athens, and here we have this famous speech. Katapanta hos desidaimonesterus humas theoro. So I see, so men of Athens, I see that, katapanta, in every respect, that you are desidaimonesterus. This is a fascinating word. Desidaimon means God-fearing. The desi here from the old root dedia, to fear, daimon, so God-fearing, so most God-fearing, most religious it's often translated as, but it's literally, and it's comparative rather than superlative. We don't get superlatives in New Testament Greek. They tend to use the comparatives. So I see that you are, probably a way of saying you are very God-fearing, or you are very religious. The word does occur elsewhere, in Xenophon of Ephesus at a later time, and also in Xenophon in an earlier time in his work on Agesilaus and so on. So it really means showing great respect to the gods. For diakominos, for going through, and anatheoron, and looking up and down at tas sebasmata, at the objects of worship, of your objects of worship. Huron, I found also a bomon, an altar. Enho, on which epigrapto, this is a pluperfect passive from epigrapho, we get our word epigram from this, on which had been inscribed, and this is what's inscribed, hagnosto theo, to an unknown, there's the alpha privative plus the gno root, to an unknown god. Now there were a number of such things, because you had to be careful. If you had temples to various gods, you always had to worry that one god didn't get mentioned and they will come and punish you. So you have an altar to the unknown god in order to cover your bases, really. So the god can't say, oh, I didn't get any altar. Well, you say, yes, but that one was for you. We just didn't name you. Ho'un ag no'untes. Now Paul is very, well, a bit too clever by half in some ways here. He misinterprets what this is about, and he said, that which therefore you are ignorant of, so you worship being ignorant of, so you worship in your ignorance because you don't know who this God is. This I, cat angelo humin, that this I announce to you. This I relate to you, I announce to you. The God, the one having made the world and all the things in it, he also, now hubarkane is a participle just meaning is, it's like the verb to be here, who is, Kurios, Lord of the heaven and the earth, and he does not dwell in temples, cheiropoietes, made with hands. So there's that chiro, hand, and the poia root in here. So he does not dwell in temples made with hands, made by hands, nor is he served by human hands, pros diomenos tinos, another participle, as though he needed anything. It's slightly tricky there, needing anything. He himself, having given life and breath and all things, passing to everyone. And he made the whole ethnos, the whole race of men, ex henos, from one man, to dwell upon the whole face of the land. Horissas, having fixed or determined the appointed, this is from pros tasso, this is the perfect passive participle, Prostasso is to ordain or arrange. So here it's having determined the appointed kairos seasons, and the horothesias, only here in the New Testament, the placing of boundaries of their habitation. I think this simply means things like mountains and seas and so on that limit where people can live. So it's the placing of horos, boundaries, of the of their katoikios, of their habitation. So having done that, to seek God, if, now we get this arage, if perchance, a couple of interesting particles here, if perchance, psela theseon, this is an optative here from psela phao with an alpha contract. Psao is a verb meaning to touch, and this is often rendered here to grope after, sort of to reach out without actually seeing what you're reaching out for, to grope after. So perchance they might grope after him, and they might find him. Huroian, optative again from heurisco. And indeed, understand him being, this is the participle here, him being, get in fact, not far from each one hemon of you. So to seek God. Now all of these infinitives are after this epoiesen. So he created all this, and he made mankind to seek God, if perchance they might grope after him, and they might find him, and indeed he is not far from each one of us. And we'll stop at that point and continue with shortly afterwards in another video.